basically, this is just the agenda for tonight. Next is a safety presentation for the lawn display, and with that, we'll turn it over to EH&S. They'll be doing the presentation tonight.
Thanks. Good afternoon, good evening. My name is Ryan Savage. I'm with Environmental Health and Safety on campus here. Also with me tonight is Laura Kim and Jim Gunning. They're also with Environmental Health and Safety. During this year, for those of you guys who haven't done this before, we will be out to do 2 scheduled inspections, and then we can also pop in at any other time while you guys are building to inspect your displays and make sure you guys are following the rules and don't have any safety issues that we see out there. So some of the general things that we noted from last year is when you guys are building the biggest thing, make sure you guys have decent housekeeping out on your lawns. The more you pick up, the less hazards are out there for tripping over boards and carrying stuff, stepping on nails, things like that. So clean up after yourselves when you're out there. When we come do our inspections, the cleaner site's a lot easier for us to walk through and inspect, and a lot less issues for us to find to make you guys change before you continue on. Tool usage. That one, use common sense when you're building stuff. Use a hammer for a hammer, don't use a wrench as a hammer, things like that. If you guys are doing any hot work, if you are doing any sort of welding, cutting any metal that's causing sparks, make sure your area, especially right now with all the dry grass out in the yards, make sure you guys got fire extinguishers on hand so you're not starting your yards on fire, starting your projects on fire, and burning them to the ground before we get to see them. Now on your job sites, make sure you're wearing safety glasses when you guys are doing any sort of cutting, things like that. It's causing flying debris, avoid your eye injuries. Definitely a big thing, no sandals, no open-toed shoes when you guys are out on the projects working, either tennis shoes or work boots if you got them. Especially if you're carrying material around and the potential of dropping it on your foot. And then we're not going to require it, but definitely recommended out on your sites. Wear hard hats if you guys have them, especially when you're walking underneath the projects to keep from bumping your heads. Big thing, electrical. All you guys need electrical out there. Everything needs to be plugged into a GFCI outlet. That's, those of you that don't know, the first picture, it's the ones that have the buttons in the middle that'll have breakers to reset if there's any surge out there. So definitely everything needs to be plugged into a GFCI outlet. Make sure if you got extension cords that you're running, they got to be outdoor rated extension cords, and that way they can support the load and support the weather. Some issues that we found in the past, when you guys aren't doing your own wiring, if you do them, make sure everything's covered. In the picture on the far right, up towards the top, you've got somebody had wired into an outlet, and the outlet's just sitting out in the open, exposed to the elements. So definitely it's either going to short out due to water, or you got potential to start stuff on fire there. The middle picture there, making sure none of your cords got any nicks in them, and get them taken care of beforehand. And then the picture on the left, if you're making your own electrical, they got to be well-tight plugs, otherwise best rule of thumb, just use brand new extension cords if you got them, things that have been purchased and are properly molded and not put together yourselves. Alright, ladder safety for the structures going up. Definitely before you use the ladders, make sure you check them over. If you got fiberglass ladders, make sure that they're not cracked, that the weights that you're moving up and down on ladders, whether it's yourself or moving yourself and material, don't over exceed the weight limits rated for the ladders. Big thing here, when you're using any sort of extension ladders up against your structure, this is the position that you want to have it in. Rule of thumb is 75 degrees, but the easy way to figure it out is do as the picture does. Have it set up against your structure, stand at the base of the ladder, stick your arms straight out. If you can touch the rungs, then it's at the right angle. If you can't touch the rungs with your arms straight out, you need to adjust it, and if your arms are bent when you can touch the rungs, it's too steep and you need to adjust the ladder again. And definitely make sure you're using 3 points of contact when you're carrying, or when you're moving up and down the ladder. So With 3 points of contact, you shouldn't be carrying anything up and down the ladder with you. Either go up to the top and haul your tools or equipment up with you, or you're going to be using scaffolding to work off of, because you can't maintain 3 points of contact if you're carrying things up the ladder with you. Ladders act on your projects. If you're building any sort of stages or platforms where you got to make a ladder to attach to it so you can have access to it. This was a big thing we found last year and made a lot of groups fix because they're not doing them right. The biggest thing here is the rungs highlighted in red there. They have to be 8 to 12 inches apart, whether you're measuring from center to center, bottom to bottom, top to top. Pick one of those three, and all the measurements have to be the same. If you're going to have them 8 inches, then they all need to be 8 inches. If you're going to have them 12, they all need to be 12. Find those out there. We're going to make you take them apart and refix them. Does anybody have any questions before the ladders coming up on the project? Alright, getting into scaffolding. If you are going to use scaffolding to help build structures, most likely you're going to end up renting it from one of the companies here in town. So when you are building it, don't mix any components from different manufacturers. When you're renting it, it should all be the same, but it's your job to verify that before you start erecting scaffolding. Make sure, like the picture shows, put it on a stable platform. While you're setting it up out in the yard, if your yard's got any sort of slope in there or whatnot, you're going to have to put some sort of blocking underneath of it to make sure that the scaffold's leveling. And then it's hard to see in the picture, but in the two corners, there's nails into it. That's all securing your scaffolding to the base. So make sure you got it secured down to the base. And if you got people up on scaffolding working, nobody's to be working underneath that scaffolding. For one, in case they drop something, you don't want to be under it when it falls. And two, if that scaffold gives way, you don't want to be underneath it as well. Along with that, guardrails on the scaffolding. It's hard to see with all the scaffolding that's in this photo, but you need to have guardrails up on the scaffolding, including your normal top rail, the mid rail, and a toe board at the bottom. The toe board's got to be at least 3.5 inches tall. Primarily a 2x4 laid on side will suffice, but that's going to keep you from kicking things off the edge and falling down on the ground. And platforms, make sure that the platforms that you're working off of, if it's not a metal platform as it's shown, that it's wood planking and it's fully planked between the guardrails so that you have no gaps to fall through. Protection from falls. To be, as you're building your structures, as you see in the photo, nobody's to be working above 10 feet unless you're on scaffolding or in some sort of lift mechanism itself. You're not allowed to be up above 10 feet working without one of those two. Alright, guardrails on your guys' structures. If you're building platforms and things like that. If it's going to be 30 inches or more off the ground, you got to have some sort of railing going around it to prevent you guys from falling off while you're doing your skids. So make it pretty simple for you guys. The railing, all you have to do is have the top rail. As shown in the picture, it's got to be at 42 inches tall, and it's got to be able to support people walking around it and not falling off, and at least to catch somebody if they start to stumble. So one thing we're going to check for on all your guys' projects, if you got railing like that, we're going to step up and we're going to wiggle it around to see if we can get it to knock loose. If you can get it to knock loose before we get there, obviously you got to do some rethinking and re-engineering and get it secured so that way it's not going to move around when people are up there. To go along with keeping you guys safe, any of your platforms that you do have that you're going to put people on for your skits, no more than 5 people up on the platform, and you got to have at least 1 foot space in between each person that's going to be up on that platform. So, I mean, rough numbers here, it's going to take probably 2 feet per person on there, plus another foot of space in between, so you're looking at 13 to 15 feet wide to have a platform to put 15 people up there, or 5 people up there. Excavations, digging holes out in the yard. You're not allowed to have any holes more than 3 feet deep unless it's for the poles to anchor into the ground and nobody's going to be in them. If somebody is going to be in them, only 3 feet deep. Or, excuse me, nobody's to be in the pits. Pits are only for water, ponds, mechanical pits to hide all your wiring, things of that nature. Materials. Obviously, the best thing to do is to use new lumber, new nails, new screws, things like that. But I know you guys are under budget and you want to reuse as much as you can. So the issue with that, make sure it's good material that you're reusing. Check over the material as you guys are building. If you're reusing lumber, make sure that it's not cracked, it's not split anywhere, things of that nature. And use your fasteners, your screws, your nails. Make sure you're using good stuff when you are putting things together, and make sure that you're using nails, you're getting the nails all the way in. Saw a lot of it last year where you go to put two boards together, and with the nail, you only nail the nail on halfway, and then you leave it there. Put it all the way through, make sure it's good, secure, fasten on the two pieces, and move forward from there. We already talked about your guardrails. For anything above 30 inches off the ground, if it is for your platforms, the horizontal joists that you're going to build need to be no greater than 24 inches apart from each other. If it's going to be a platform that somebody's going to be standing on, then it needs to be no greater than 16 inches. Joist spacing and the plywood you use on top to stand on has to be 3/4 inch or thicker. We found this one a lot last year. Groups trying to get by, save money, and only use 1/2 inch plywood. This year we're not going to be lenient with it. Come by, and you got 1/2 inch plywood down, you're going to need to take it up and put 3/4 inch ply down. We're not going to let that one slide this year. Stairs. If you're building any stairs to get up on your platform, here is the basic nutshell for it. The tread depth, how deep the stair itself is, has to be 10 inches. And the height to the next step can't be greater than 8 inches. It needs to be between 6 and 8 inches. So make sure you guys are paying attention to that when you're building your staircases. And then this one's in your guys' plan for your structure. Obviously, your height limit's 20 feet. Unless you have a special circumstance. So normal construction for anything from 0 to 10 feet, anything above 10 feet to your 20-foot max has to be made of lightweight materials such as styrofoam, plasterboard, things of that nature. And then like I said at the beginning, we will have 2 scheduled inspections that we will come around and inspect your stuff. And then we do have unannounced inspections that any one of us 3 can come through your sites at any time, take a look and see what you guys are doing, and see if you guys have anything wrong. So for safety, if you're unsure about something, you guys got questions, here's our contact information for you guys. Like I said, my name is Brian. Laura and Jim are with me tonight. If you have questions, got doubts about something, get a hold of us before you do it. That way you don't have to redo it if you did it wrong. So take the time to ask us beforehand. Does anybody have any questions regarding safety while you guys get your project started?
Just a note too on extension cords, there will be no daisy chaining of extension cords, so I don't want to see an extension cord plugged into another extension cord, etc., etc. That's not allowed, so make sure that if you're plugging in a power tool, it's one extension cord to the outlet and not 3 or 4 extension cords. Just an FYI, that's not really applied here, so.
Yep.
Are safety laws required by every person on the display, or only if you're using cutting something? Are they required with drills and that kind of stuff, or any?
We require the use of a power tool, special saw, any kind of cutting instrument, which is required for safety reasons, but not everybody. But flip flops, things like that, we require closed-toed shoes, preferably long pants, no shorts. You see a lot of construction guys in shorts. Closed-toed shoes is the number one.
Any other questions?
I'm going to jump cover this, because this was one of the changes for last year. I don't know how many of you are repeats, so a lot of you probably are, but with the height thing, this is kind of a little map, but remember that there's a 20-foot height limit, so nothing's above 20 feet. Unless you put into your patent a special request for an exemption of something that's not structural. So that's the same thing as was last year, but don't plan on building stuff 25 feet. Plan on building things 20 feet, and we're looking for one exemption per display that can go above 20 feet as long as it's not structural. Again, if you did it last year, you probably had an idea. We had foam board stuff, we had canvas, we had things like that, that top 5 feet. So that's not a given. You might request something that gets turned down. Those things are not guaranteed. The limit is 20 feet. Anything above that, the extra 5 feet is a special exemption that requires you to write that into your patent. That's all in the rule book, so that should all be covered. And remember too, above 10 feet, we're talking lightweight materials for facing surfaces. So you're not facing with plywood, you're facing with blue board, with foam board, that kind of stuff. So that's for wind. I know you don't put that on until the very last minute, but at the same time, we still do that same thing every year. Just generally, before they talk about dates and that kind of stuff, I wanted to cover, again, if you've heard this before, if you've been to this for years, we're finally doing the same things over and over again, so it's nice. But this is, the lawn display safety process is a huge process that's gone on for over 6 years at least. We have people from university facilities, we have the EH&S folks that are always here inspecting the displays. We had the university architect, we have architecture professors that were part of this process. The city of Ames was a part of the process, so this is a huge safety process that took place over a number of years that came up with the whole system that we're using now. We revisit it every year. As a committee, we get together and we talk about all these things. So this is a robust process. What we're doing is we're trying to make sure that you all can do lawn display safely and that we can continue the tradition. My number one priority always with lawn display is to make sure that we keep doing it. So whatever that process looks like, we want to be safe, we want to be awesome, we want to have all these things happen. There's a big safety process. But at the end of the day, we want lawn display to continue as a tradition at Iowa State, especially for Iowa State homecoming. So that's always my goal. So we want you to be able to come up to us. The H&S folks are here afterwards too, once they get through with their stuff. The lawn display coaches are available, phone, email, that kind of stuff. All the rule books are posted online. Ask us questions, get in there, try to find the ways to do some cool, different, interesting things. We'd love to see you guys do that. So, but we're here for you and we want to make sure that we make lawn display an awesome part of homecoming. So that's the deal.